Is this the cutest little car on sale today or what? It's the new Fiat 500e in rose gold. It definitely looks very classy for its size though. It kind of looks like a proper branded or designer handbag or something like that. It looks like it's a high-end model. And it is priced like a high-end model too. This is priced from, in Australia, $52,500 before on-road costs, making it about $25,000 more than the regular petrol-powered Fiat 500. The current MY24 model is the Dolce Vita, I think that's how you pronounce it in Italian. They come out with all these different variants. This is called the La Prima, but yeah, there's always different little slogans and little variants that they come out with the Fiat 500. It has been around now for quite a few years, so they come out with these different variants and things to try and spice it up a bit, give it a different color and different trimmings and things like that. I think it actually looks pretty good for what it's intending to be. It's a very well designed little car. You'll have to excuse the sweating going on today. It's a very warm day. The dashboard said 42 degrees Celsius when I got in. Despite looking like a Fiat 500, it's quite a bit different actually, the electric version. Although it looks like the regular Fiat 500, it's actually quite a bit different with different dimensions. I saw a normal Fiat 500 driving along the other day and thought, no, this one's got wider wheel arches, surely. And they do. This is an overall wider vehicle. 1683 millimeters wide, up from 1627 of the regular model. The wheelbase is also 22 millimeters longer. With the increase in wheelbase though, the turning circles increased from 9.3 to 9.7 in this, which is a pretty big deal because these are made for city conditions primarily, and you want to be able to zip around. So it is something to consider, that extra turning circle radius. I think I'm gonna have to get in the car. This is just too hot. Actually, even my phone is saying it's too hot. When you start it up and turn it off, it's got these cute little chimes. And when you turn it off, it sounds like Mario and Luigi. When you turn it off, it sounds like Mario and Luigi have jumped down the wrong pipe. Ready? It's full of character, as Italian cars usually are. I'll just turn it back on because it's very, very warm. What do we got here? 37 degrees Celsius at the moment. Very stylish in here as well. You've got Fiat sort of discreetly embossed into the seats there. You've got this, I don't know what you call that, sort of Hessian bag style of trimming along the dash. And then a perforated sun shield for the sunroof. It's not the best, especially on days like today, because the sun still beams through that. There are little holes in it, but yeah, it just comes straight through, and it's warming up the cabin quite a bit, which means I've got to put the aircon, really heavily rely on the aircon, which of course impacts the overall range. The biggest issue I have with this car though is the price. And it's not just this vehicle. A lot of electric vehicles for some reason are so much more expensive than their petrol versions or diesel versions. I did some calculations before, and this works out to be about $25,000 more than the regular petrol model. So based on the petrol model's stats, it uses a 1.2 litre engine. The official average consumption rate is 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres. If you work out that $25,000, or if you use that $25,000 for fuel in the petrol model, that'll get you around 260,000 kilometres at a fuel cost of about $2 per litre. That works out to be, taking the Australian average travelled distance travelled per year of 15,000 kilometres, that works out to be about 17 years of ownership. It especially doesn't make sense in Australia, in my opinion. We travel, pretty big distances. It's pretty common for us to go from city to city, a few hundred kilometres apart. But if you're living in the city and you just want a little run around, you can plug it in, you've got access to some sort of charger. This could be a very fun little car to own. For me, I'd probably pick a rich, deep, dark blue colour. I wouldn't go with the rose gold. It's a $700 option, all of the colours except for ice white. It's just a solid white colour. That's free of charge, or no extra charge over the price of the vehicle. But there's not many vehicles like this that offer this much character and fun. It is lots of fun to drive too. So I'll go for a drive in a minute, but I'll just quickly show you the interior, a bit about the rear seat space and the boot space. Obviously it's a very tight rear seat. It's good to see that printing carried across to the rear as well though. I'll try and sit inside. So I'm in, my head is just about touching the ceiling there. Not too far away, but I'm in and I've got my legs tucked behind the seats there and it's not too bad. I mean, I could sit in here for a trip across the city or something like that and not feel too claustrophobic, but there's no middle seat in the back here. There's just two outer seats. But you do have pretty good visibility. You've got a little window here, it doesn't open, but all through the front, you feel like you're sitting in the front basically, even though you're sitting in the back. No climate vents in the back though, that's probably understandable considering the size of the cabin or the volume of the cabin. But I will say one thing, the climate control really works hard to try and fill up this cabin. Again, I think it's because of that sunroof, the perforated screen there. You need a full block out blind to stop that sun beaming in on a hot day because there's just 4 vents on the dash. There's one on the side there, then 2 in the middle, then one on the other side over the other side of the steering wheel there, and that's it. So you've really got to crank those to fill up the cabin. And in the back, we've got a tiny little boot. It's the same size as the regular Fiat 500. So you're not missing out on anything by going with the electric model. All of the electric gear is underneath the vehicle and under the bonnet at the front. Look at this tiny little parcel shelf. It's so cute as well. Doesn't really do anything though. I suppose it stops you from seeing into the boot area through the rear windscreen. Under the gas strutted bonnet here, which is quite unique for this class actually, you've got the electric motor. Now it's fed by a 42 kilowatt hour battery and the motor itself produces 87 kilowatts and 220 newton meters, making it a lot more powerful and a lot more torque than the regular petrol model. It's actually quite zippy as you'd expect. The throttle response is pretty much instant and it's a lot of fun to drive. We'll go for a drive now and I'll show you what I mean and then we'll head out and do the performance testing. Before we do go though, if you are interested in buying a new vehicle, you might also be interested in a novated lease. Now these can be great because they can bring down your taxable income and you get to drive a brand new vehicle. Usually servicing and most of the running costs are covered in a novated lease. I've done an article on our website, drivingenthusiast.com.au. I go through the top 5 good and bad points about a novated lease, so you can see if it sort of weighs up in your situation. You can also head over to our friends at Novated Lease Australia, linked up in the video and in the description. They can run you through the whole process. There's even an online step-by-step process you can fill out there and it'll give you a bit of an idea of what it's all about and if it's right fit for you. With a wider footprint and I'm assuming a lower center of gravity, this has the potential to handle better than the petrol model. It certainly feels very zippy and playful, just like the petrol model. It just feels and is a bit heavier, that's the only thing. So this weighs almost 1,300 kilograms, whereas the petrol model weighs just over 900 kilograms. That's a pretty big difference, and you're talking a pretty big percentage as well, because it's small to start with and low weight to start with. It's a big jump up. Even so, it still feels very playful, accelerates very quickly for what it is. Fiat claims 0 to 100 in 9 seconds flat, so we'll see if that's true or not later on with the performance test, but it certainly feels very punchy, picks up speed quite quickly, especially if you're already traveling at about 20 or 30 kilometers an hour and then you floor it. It really actually squats down at the back and the front rises up to take off. I guess the handling characteristics are quite important because the Fiat 500 has always been known to be a fun little car to drive. And yeah, I can definitely confirm this is still very fun, just like the petrol model, if not more fun in some ways because you have that instant response and you can overtake people rather than have to sit behind them. The suspension is pretty good. It soaks up these bumps quite well. It's not too stiff, despite being a very small platform. Yeah, it's doing quite well. This is very bumpy road actually. I've been down here in hot hatches and things and it's, yeah, it can really shake and vibrate around, whereas this is just ironing over the bumps quite well. Tip it in, you can actually get off the power and unweight the rear end. So it does move a bit, there's a bit of pitch and roll and things, which is good, or a good amount of that. You don't want absolutely none, because then it becomes, you know, it'll hold on, and then suddenly let go. Whereas if you've got a bit of body roll and so on, you can kind of feel it gradually happening if it does happen. But yeah, there's no traction issues or anything like that. I'm giving it full power out of the corners, and it's not even, you know, seeming like it's going to start spinning the wheels. Full power. Yeah, it just goes. There's it's a good balance, in other words. The range is 320 kilometers on the WLTP cycle, which is obviously not ideal for, you know, touring around Australia, or even, you know, skipping from suburb to suburb. But if you're just zipping around in the city, that's fine. The gauge or the onboard readout said 270 kilometer range with a 100% battery. So that's in the normal mode. There's a few different modes you can choose from down here. You've got Sherpa, which is like an eco mode, and the range has just jumped up a little bit there. So where is it? It's 89 kilometers in Sherpa mode. I'll put it into range mode, and it goes down to 83. Then in normal mode, it goes down to 76. Range mode is a good balance, in my opinion. That's what I've had it in most of the time, because you still have the response of the throttle, but it gives you pretty strong brake regen. So when you back off, it actually slows down quite a bit. You can see the little power gauge there drop right down. And it'll give you a bit more battery, basically, each time you back off. But also, it's kind of like left foot braking. You can come into the corner and just back off the throttle a little bit, and it'll give you that little bit of braking, so you can balance the car. And you can just learn a new way of driving, so it's quite interactive, or it can be interactive. Overall though, I think this is a very interesting little car, definitely full of character, and the design is exquisite, really. It's a very well designed car. Aside from the practicality kind of drawbacks, it is a very small car, so you can't expect massive boot space or massive rear seat space. But there is a cup holder down here, kind of in the center console. Not much really on the dash going on, but you do have a wireless charger, USB port there, and there's another one down here as well with a USB-C. Does have electronic doors, door locks, or door latches, so you just push the button and the door will open. It doesn't automatically swing out, but that's like the electronic door latch, like what we've seen on Lexus models lately. And you've got a digital instrument cluster as well. You can configure the screen displays and things to show different information. Yeah, I could live with this every day for sure if I lived in the city. It's just that range probably would affect you if you lived outside the city, and if you didn't have access to a charger. Alright, we'll head out now and do the performance testing and see what it goes like.